What's up? It's your boy Bass, and y'all tuned in to the family time. Today, I want to talk to you all about the difference between a quartz watch and a mechanical watch. Now, mechanical watch come in two different categories. You got your self winding, then you have your winding, like that you have to wind. Self winding means that it can recharge by you waving your wrist or moving your wrist. It has a rotor in the back that helps wind it on its own. But you can also, a lot of the watches, you can also wind it on your own by winding it clockwise. I had to learn that you wind it clockwise. Now, quartz watch is something different. A quartz watch comes with a battery and it's powered by a quartz crystal, which is set to a certain frequency to help give it the right rhythm tick to go at the right time. So, that's the difference between the two, but let's kind of dive a little bit more deep. Horse watches was not on the scene until like later on in the years. Um, Mechanical watches been around for an extremely long time because they started out as pocket watches, and people later on gravitated to putting them on the wrist because they utilized it more in the military and in the service field. And that's how a lot of these watches have grown their popularity. And mechanical watches was also long lasting. Back then, they didn't have batteries, so mechanical watches was like the first pioneer of the game. And we're also doing that to be able to have the precise time or accurate time. It took prestige craftsmanship, which you don't really see too much now because everything is set to be mass produced. So they try to simplify everything while still try to keep its craftsmanship, I would say. Um, but for the most part, that's how the watch game kind of started. That's why a lot of watches now are more so art pieces. It's a showpiece of craftsmanship and also detail and precision. But let's also go dive into quartz watch. Seiko and a lot of other brands really came into fame and also almost crippled the Swiss industry with this new technology that they were calling the quartz watch, when they were using batteries instead of actually having to wind or self wind a watch, because those only have a recharge. Mechanical watches, a lot of times, at most, I think they have like a 72-hour recharge, but for a lot of times, it's like 48 to like 72 hours. And that's on the high end. On the low end, you might get to 24 to maybe 12 to 24, if it's fully wound up and recharged. Um, but I mean, on a full charge. But for the most part, it's like the battery. It was a new technology though, and it was also, it made it a lot more cheaper to manufacture, but also it was a lot more accurate because it was technology. Like it was a battery power. So with mechanical watches, you have this thing where, because it has to be wound up, and as it starts to loosen up every day, it starts to either speed up or lose a couple seconds. So the time can jump. So you'd be like, all right, so now your watch go from being a minute fast. All right, so if it's actually 12:23, in reality, I know it's 12:22. But then now, as time starts to progress, your watch go from being 1 minute fast to being 5 minutes fast over time. If you just keep letting it go, you know. So that's how you can kind of depict that. They have machines and all that type of stuff that can kind of tell you all that. But we ain't gotta dive off into that. With Quartz watch is a little different. It's ran by a quartz crystal. That's where the name quartz come from. It's the frequency is off of a quartz crystal. It goes by a quartz crystal frequency and all that type of stuff. Got a circuit board, comes with a battery, but it still comes with craftsmanship. Don't let that go too far over your head to think that it's just some cheap plastic. No, a lot of these watch companies have created some crazy technology to go inside these watches to kind of counteract that. Because if you think about it on the bright side, it's like, and that's why I say craftsmanship about a mechanical watch is this is operating with no battery, no technology. This is just straight up like craftsmanship. You have like literally like rotors and all that type of stuff inside, or like on your wrist, and it's measuring time and distance, depending on which watch you have. You know, you have to understand that that takes like a lot of knowledge and craftsmanship to do, and you have that just sitting on your wrist. And a lot of times, mechanical watches and luxury watches, they're kind of rated by their complications, and this is what they call it, a complication, and that's what makes your watch like more valuable. Is it's complication. It's how hard it is because they understand that it takes what it takes to actually build that and implement that feature into that watch. Um, and there's so many different types of complications. I was just reading up on a watch that basically when you go pull out your crown to change the time, that it stops the second. A lot of mechanical watches, the second hand just keep flowing as you trying to adjust the time. But because they was trying to get precise measurement of like of time, like you know, 'cause this was for pilots, you know, for certain service field individuals, they need to know precise time. So the watch had a feature where basically when you pull out the crown, it stops the whole watch. The balance wheel just stops. It stops it in place. You know, them type of features, complications, cost. And that's why you have certain watches like Omegas and Rolex and, you know, your Patek Philippe. These are known names. There's big dogs above them. You know, that's why you can't, in the watch game, you got to always be humble. But on the mechanical side, you have to really be humble because there's people that have been, I ain't gonna say people, brands that been making watches for the last 300 years. So the craftsmanship is like, it's on a whole nother level. And that is why like Rolex got their name because they kind of paved the way for the Submariner watch. Like they paved the way for that design. They influenced that whole lane, and a lot of brands basically piggybacked off of it. And it's nothing wrong with that. They were just innovators in that lane. And but that brand been around for an extremely long time. So then that's why they're able to mass produce at that scale. That you can is certain things about a Rolex why it's worth what it's worth. And some of it is I mean the industry it's a market. So some of it is supply and demand. Let's be real. When it comes down to a lot of this, is also supply and demand. But where else is you gonna get certain type of craftsmanship like that with a name that's backing it? So yeah, it's in the course watch you got a lot of competition too. Because one thing that about the course watch it was made to be able to be affordable but be able to be like mass produced. So but the grandfather of that was like the Seiko. And a lot of people don't know about Seikos, but Seiko was like the grandfather of like the quartz watch. And you have what they even have their own mechanical watch, but also their own like higher end luxury brand, which is the Grand Seiko. And you're gonna spend a couple $1,000s on that. Yeah, you're gonna spend a couple $1,000s on that. It's gonna be like maybe a $1,000 to $3,000 purchase sometimes if you get it brand new. A Grand Seiko is is one of them pieces that you keep in your collection. It's a good investment piece. But it comes from the Seiko. Well, not the name isn't the Seiko. I'll just say that because I'm talking slang too. You feel me? But it comes from the watch Seiko. Seiko watch is was made out of like Japan. And it's pretty good watch. It's also a luxury watch too. It's traded a lot. It's sought after, especially on the resale market, a lot. Um, and they had so many different types. And during that time, they also started experimenting with so many different type of watches. That's when you start to see the digital watch start to come about. And the digital watch had this whole era of different. You got all different styles of digital watches, and now that you got your kind of your G Shock style. I would say G Shock style, but I'm gonna say Casio G Shock style. You got your Casio G Shock style, that like sports watch that a lot of people now gravitate to, and a lot of brands kind of replicate in a way. And I ain't saying that was founded by G Shock. I'm not. That's just the one that comes to mind in my head. So I'm just trying to give y'all a brief understanding of like how that kind of transpired. But where my water at? Of course, watch also too is can get very expensive. Um, and what people also kind of miss sometimes, because I did kind of go into like the craftsmanship, and why um, it's worth more, and like how mechanical watch is worth more. And but what people also got to remember is quartz watches that is worth more than mechanical watches. Um, yes, because it also still comes down to craftsmanship. Is quartz watches that are made on the inside. I'm talking about beautiful. It's and they put like high end parts into these watches. The watches are made out of high end material, and they're cased with high end metal. Like all this plays a factor when it comes down to the pricing of a watch, because that is how a watch gets its value. If you have a like, you're not gonna pay top dollar for a watch that has imitation leather wristband, are you? Or you're gonna want a watch that has genuine leather or a certain type of hide, or like a real deal like material, or something that's stainless steel, titanium, or something like that. You don't want to pay for that. Versus, like you'll pay top dollar for that. Versus like sort of like base metal. Base metal is not on the same level as like a stainless steel or a titanium or something like that. But it's still a very good material. Don't take it away. But in that regard, so if we talk about price point, it's a difference. It's a different lane. Um, but going back into the main discussion, I kind of drifted off. The main discussion was about mechanical versus quartz watch. Quartz watches can be also very expensive, but quartz watches come down to a magnitude of things, and also that just come down to watches in general. Is it a chronograph watch? What is a chronograph watch? A chronograph watch is a watch that comes with a stopwatch feature. A lot of time these watches come with two also push pins or push buttons located on the outside of the crown on each end, the left and the right. Um, and it also comes with extra sub dials for you to be able to keep track of time as it's stopping, seconds and things of that nature, seconds and minutes and things of that nature. Chronograph watches oftentimes cost more in general. In general, so if you have a quartz chronograph watch versus a regular mechanical watch, depend on the brand, depend on like the model, how it was made. Yes, it can cost more. So don't get that misconstrued what I'm saying. But just saying that when you actually go into the actual like the watch market, and you see how some of these watches are priced, you will understand that there are $50,000 watches, there are $1 million watches. A lot of these watches that are millions of dollars, that are 20, 30,000, $40,000. Majority of them are mechanical watches. That just how the market is. Majority of those are mechanical watches. Now that's for like the 1%ers, the people that actually has 40,000 to go spend on a watch. Now for those people that work a regular 9 to 5, yes, 800, $1,000, $3,000 watch, that is a high price watch, and course watches can get to them prices. A lot of them, the luxury ones, A lot of them are those prices. You're gonna pay 300. You're gonna pay a couple hundred or more, or you can find the vintage or a resold one for a cheaper value, but it still has some value. Like, and that's what you gotta understand. Certain models, certain makes have value, no matter if it's a quartz watch or a mechanical watch. So when it come down to picking one for yourself, if you're trying to add to your own collection, you should just understand, what do I want my watch to do and what am I going for? Am I going for budget friendly? If I'm going for budget friendly, I might want to go with a quartz watch because it might be easier to also maintain or replace parts, because a mechanical watch actually takes going to someone that has like first-hand watch knowledge to really break the watch down, put it back together, and also be able to diagnose what the issue may be. A mechanical watch is like a car. You don't want to just take your car to anybody. You want to take your car to actual, like somebody that got mechanical experience, so then they can diagnose the issue, then fix the issue, and make sure that the issue is fixed after it, before it leaves their hands. So you gotta think the same way with watches. So mechanical watches do require a little bit of more maintenance, if it does require maintenance, but they tend to last a long time if you take care of the watch. If you take care of the watch, they generally are made to last a long time. There's been reported watches that lasted 100 years to still work. They just have to get, tuned up. They might have to go get cleaned, but that's just the actual maintenance of the watch. It requires a little bit more maintenance sometimes with course watches, just due to the fact that it's battery power and batteries run out. And depend on if you have like a battery power watch that has a lot of features. Sometimes it drains a lot of battery, so you might have to get it changed more often than a watch. And sometimes people keep their watch running even after they take them off. You can turn them off, but a lot of people keep their watch running. Keep that in mind. So if you take your watch off, pull the crown up, sometimes it stops the watch. So that's what can. That's one way to help save some time on your course watch, so that you don't drain the battery out. But with doing that, you gotta also know that you have to reset the time again. Once you start it back up, you have to reset the time so you have the correct time. And a lot of people don't feel like doing that, so a lot of people just let it just run. When you do that, yeah, it's a battery power. Eventually, the battery is going to run out. You got to take it to a shop or somebody, and they got to get it repaired. I mean, not repaired, but the battery changed. Sometimes run you anywhere from, depending on the watch, it can run you anywhere from $25 and up, depending on the watch, for just to get the battery changed. You know, so and that happens every so often. Depends on the person in the watch, what batteries being put in there. But that's going down a whole nother rabbit hole. But that's just one thing to think of. When also too, when it comes down to picking watches. But for the most part, if you just starting out at anything, I always just say, man, go for what you can afford and go for what you like. And no matter what, there's no way you can go wrong, honestly. But if you trying to really go budget friendly and you're really trying to get a bang for the buck, I say go course. Go course to start out with, and then graduate and then go to a mechanical watch. And the only reason I say that is because just in case you need to go get the watch service and you don't have like much watch knowledge and you don't know where to go, um, yeah, it can cost you. And sometimes the watch may not be worth the hassle. I'm not trying to say it like that, but sometimes the watch might not be worth the hassle. So you gotta you gotta understand that. And what I mean by the watch might not be worth the hassle, because if you end up breaking something that's detrimental in the watch, like inside the movement, they gotta take the whole movement apart. Depending on how much you pay for it, it might cost just the same amount to get that same watch fixed. But a lot of watches are art pieces, and they do have value. So if it is a watch of value, it is worth getting it fixed. And getting it fixed is like getting a car fixed. You can probably get it fixed at one time and then run forever. It might just be like something that could have happened at the factory or something, just something small. but something internal that requires experience to get to. But that's pretty much the difference for me. The longevity has been reported like on mechanical watches is crazy. 100 years is crazy. So I mean, just for me, I just say like a mechanical watch will like have it on like longevity. Just from reports, it haven't been long enough to see if a quartz watch can last 100 years. I don't think so. We still trying to see if it can measure up on that end. So just off the test of time, longevity, mechanical watches got to be affordable. Then that's when you got. It's kind of now. I think the market is kind of becoming more neck and neck because you have competitors from different regions able to mass produce um, a more of a low end model mechanical watch, which still works, but it's still like it's just more simpler, more easier to mass produce, and it's not much complications. Like as I spoke to you earlier in this podcast, like it wasn't that much complications being done to it. So it's like really your basic of the basic model of an automatic watch, and so so for a lot of those watches, they are becoming more cheaper, more cheaper to buy, um, and more competitive. But I don't think they'll ever get as cheap as a quartz watch. Because quartz watches can get, man, the movements and other things can get about this small, man. I ain't gonna say it's ridiculous. It's kind of impressive to see that it can fit like a motor and and a battery, something that small to power a clock. You know, three hands, sometimes even more features, and it's crazy. But that's the power of technology. But yeah, yeah. So, far as price points, man, both of them can get very expensive. But the most expensive, I do believe, to the best of my knowledge, is mechanical watches. Mechanical watches are some of the most expensive watches that you can buy. Is the most expensive watch I think on the market right now that you can buy is a mechanical watch. As far as longevity, just due to the test of time that mechanical watches have been around the longest. I say longevity wise, mechanical watches have it, but right now there's still vintage quartz watches out that's out right now that still work. I didn't came across a lot of them. I deal with them. I love them because it just showed that right there that they can stand the test of time and that they are willing to keep going forward. Only thing they just got to do is get a little battery change or something. And they can keep going. And that also shows the craftsmanship of some of these companies too. So I think that Quartz watches is showing that they can withstand the test of time, and that there is value in it. And companies like um, Citizen, for example, Citizen have like the Eco Drive, and they also like the Eco Drive. They also have like different like solar powered models that movements is using a different type of energy. So it's still using batteries, but but the way that it's functioning is a little bit different, and it's just made to power it, and stumbling over my words. Let me drink some water. It's just made to help it sustain and power itself for a long period of time, and supposed to be better. It's supposed to be better. It's like a highly tuned engine on a car. A lot of times people reference they watches to cars, but it's Eco Drive. It's like a highly tuned engine made to last. That's why the watches are also worth a lot too, because it's complicated. Like it's complicated. It's not your typical movement in there. So Yeah, like so Citizen did that with the Eco Drive. Um, and then Seiko, who also was the grandfather of the Quartz watch, um, they also shoot their movements. They and calendar dated their day dates. Man, it's still hold value to this day. Um, Everybody know Rolex for the day day Rolex, but Seiko day dates and Grand Seiko day dates is worth a hell of a lot. Worth a hell of a lot. And I'm gonna save that for another episode when we're gonna talk about watch investments. Um, and a lot of people don't really know this, but watches is sort of like cars to say. Depending on what you get, where what it is, um, it has retained some type of value, and it does have a resale value. So if you was to go inside your jewelry right now, that watch that you ain't been wearing or something like that, and you kind of like, oh yeah, it's Gucci, it's this or it's that. I'm just leaving it sitting around. One day I'm gonna go get the battery changed and wear it, knowing you don't plan on wearing it because you probably not watch like wear or something like that. But lo and behold, you are sitting on an asset. It's an asset. It's not a liquid asset. Liquid meaning it ain't cash. You gotta go sell it for it to become cash, but it's still something that you can sell and that is of value. And you will be able to get some money back for it. You ain't gonna get just $5 back. If you got a Gucci watch or something like that, you're gonna get some money back. And if you paid $300 back then, $300 back then, it's probably like $500 now. So even if you only get like 300 back, you kind of like getting your money back for holding on to a watch for 10 years because the watch is probably worth 500 at retail, but they like shit is been resold. You barely wore it, so it look brand new, but it's being resold. So you made your 300 back. Man, that's a good way to have an investment. That's an investment to me. Like, and you had to watch for 10 years, you did what you want with it, and wasn't doing nothing for it, so you got your money back. And you got full value, and probably sometimes then some. Sometimes you may lose some, but you still got some money back, and you got a nice chunk back. You ain't just get $2, $5, $10 back, unless you just dog the watch out, and that's still getting some money back because you dog the watch out and it still has some type of value. So yeah, that's why I say watches is an investment. It's an investment. And if you're a person that like to keep your things nice and you upkeep your stuff, and you do a real good job of holding on to it, like all of the wristband links that you take out, you keep everything that's original together, do a good job of keeping everything together. Yeah, like you got an investment in it. People pay top dollar for that. The original box, the original pieces. And you'll be surprised of what type of watches is really going out there on the market and what they're selling for. Because some people are looking for their old childhood watch. When they was a kid, they want that old school Mickey Mouse watch that they had. I forgot. It's some watch that was out there sold for a lot of money. It was an old school Mickey Mouse watch. Like, and they looking for that. They want that. Sometimes you can put a price on a memory or a feeling, that person maybe have. A lot of watches bring, and that's why I say it's like artwork, to bring memories back. You know, certain watches was used during certain times of war. It was preferred. Certain watches, like, it's used for like James Bond movies. James Bond had iconic series of watches that he would use, and every actor had their own watch that they was using at a time. And a lot of people grew up watching those movies and they was like influenced by those movies. So at those times, those were the watches. You had Omegas, you had Rolexes, you got people that wore Cartier watches. You got everybody that's influenced by different things. So yeah, the watch game is something. It's something. Once you start getting to it, those are the big names. And those that just like watches, it's even better for them. They're not chasing a name. They're not chasing nothing like that. They just chasing the style that they like. It gets very creative. There's so many different watch brands, so many different watchmakers out there. This is style for you. This is style for you. But I ain't gonna talk your ear off. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. It's your boy Bass. I'm tuning out. Peace. Don't forget to go follow. And if you like some of these, go check them out. We got them on eBay. We got them on TikTok. We got them on our website. We got mechanical watches. Let y'all see up close and personal. You see the heartbeat of your watch. Go check us out.